the Rock Metal Podcast, episode 157 with the Rogue Network. All right, Rock Metal Nation, what is up? This is John from the Rock Metal Podcast. That sample you just heard was Operator by Rogue Network, who I've got on the show with me right now. They've got a new single out called Supply and Demand, complete with a music video that we'll be chatting about later in the show. And right now I'm being joined by Geralt Williams to share some stories about the music and share more info about the band. So, Geralt, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's go listen back to that track, Operator. Operator. What's the story or inspiration behind Operator?
It's kind of the first part of the song is an old. It's just a tune that I wrote quite a while ago, but it just kind of hung around in the background. I wasn't sure where I was taking it, and nothing else was kind of coming out. But eventually, I decided, right, what I'll do in the chorus is come in with something totally different. I took I really like a band called the Super Furry Animals, and they do a lot of that where the verse is one feel and one speed, and then they come in with a chorus that's totally different. But as long as the two things blend, then it works. And so that's what I did with Operator. So all of a sudden I had an unusual song with two totally different kind of textures in it.
The interesting thing is that, as you mentioned, as long as it blends, and I think it works incredibly well, especially with regard to Operator.
As long as you're in the same key, like I stayed in the same key for the chorus and the other part, although they're quite different. So that's a bit of an easier way to blend the two. If I was feeling a bit more kind of adventurous, I would have changed key. But no, I took the easy way out and stuck to the same key.
Yeah. No, I'm curious, since it's just you, right, for the Rogue Network?
I'm primarily kind of the center of the group, if you like, the nucleus. But various kind of people come and go from time to time. So at the moment, Keeley is playing the bass for me, and there's a couple of lads that have come in for the recent kind of run of gigs that we've had. So I guess you could say it's not to play on the words of the band name, but it is kind of like a network of
rogues.
Kind of musical rogues that come and go. Yeah.
So it's not just
oddly enough, one of the guys that used to play bass for me, the original bassist for this group actually, was a really good guy from Calgary.
Really?
Which is down the road from Edmonton, where you are now. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Really, really nice guy, really good bassist. Jameson, his name was. But yeah, he's from Calgary originally, and then somehow found his way over to Manchester in the UK.
Okay, I was going to ask how you got in touch with him.
Well, he was over in the UK. I think he came over here to study, and then eventually he moved from London up to Manchester, I think, and then was looking for a band of a certain type of kind of bluesy sound, and I started chatting to him over the internet, and then met up and had a jam, and then that was that.
Wow!
So he was in the group for quite a while.
Wow. In classic Canadian slang, what a small world.
Yeah.
Groovy. Now, with it being mostly you as a nucleus, go ahead and take us through, I guess, maybe the writing process for Operator. Was it music and then lyrics? Did you have a bunch of ideas bouncing around? I know that you mentioned it kind of took a little bit to get it where it is now. Maybe take us through that writing process.
Well, for me, I mean, obviously various songwriters have their own styles, but for me, it's always a case of starting with the music. And as I'm writing and developing the music, naturally I'm thinking of vocal patterns that will go over it, and I sing bits and pieces to myself. As I'm singing those vocal patterns and trying out different things, a few lines might jump out that stick with the song, and you just kind of build from there, really. So with the majority of songs, for myself, it'll start with a verse. So a pattern for the verse or a chord sequence for the verse. And then I tend to build from there. But there's a lot of songs that can come at you from different perspectives, And as I said, it's probably very different for a few other kind of songwriters. But for me, that's how it goes. You start with ideas on the instruments, a pattern or a chord sequence, and then just build from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go listen to the next track, Supply and Demand.
It's murder on the streets. It's murder on the streets. Under pressure, you've got to get some release. I know what you need, yeah. Here to provide social relief. Get in line, supply and demand. Just a businessman, bringing that easy money. Work it, feel good, easy money. Push it like you should, easy money. Take it on a fire, easy money. All working by the neighborhood, easy money. Work it, feel good, easy money. Girl, you push it like you should, easy money. All done and make it feel good.
Rock Metal Nation, it's John from the Rock Metal Podcast for a real quick break to let you know that Jay over at Metal Mayhem Radio is looking to help you get your band in rotation on his station. So go ahead and hit up Jay at studio@metalmayhemradio.co.uk. That is studio@metalmayhemradio.co.uk. Just go ahead and say that the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. He'll get you into rotation on Metal Mayhem Radio. All right, come back from Supply and Demand. The latest single to come out of the Rogue Network is complete with a music video, which we'll be chatting about here shortly. Just similar question as before. What is the story or inspiration behind Supply and Demand?
Oh, well, the Supply and Demand is actually a song about modern day kind of drug dealing, if you like, and the people that go into it, especially surrounding places like the dark web and how people buy drugs and deal drugs over the dark web, as well as other things, you know. I mean, at the moment in the UK, we're having problems with sort of what's called county lines dealers. Do you know what that is? Do you have the same thing over in Canada?
I don't know. I don't think so. I was actually just thinking when kids grow up, I want to be a drug dealer. I don't know. It's just weird, like how how people get into it. You know, no child is like, I want to be a drug dealer, just like my dad. Like, kind of weird. But anyway, carry on.
I guess it's that gangster thing, isn't it? The ideas that you have when you're younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, the county lines thing that's prominent in the UK at the moment in certain areas is that kind of drug dealers and pushers from big cities, they send out sort of young people to live in the rural areas as kind of mules, if you like, and then start dealing from there.
Oh yeah, pretty.
So yeah, so it's all about that kind of darker side of it, really.
Yeah, no, that actually is something. I don't know if there's a name for it, but predominantly here in North America, you're probably more prone to find a meth house in a really nice middle class neighborhood.
Oh, right.
than you would where you would tend to think. And even though we all know this now, they originally did it because it seems a little more hidden.
Yeah, right. And part of what I was trying to get across in the song is that, you know, young people might kind of look at this and think, this is great, this is cool, it's a piece of cake, you know. All I've got to do is get some in for myself and then split it between people, and it is easy money just to pass on this kind of these kind of drugs. But you know, real life is not like that at all.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Now, go ahead and take us through the music video for Supply and Demand, if you please.
Yeah, it was a very quick video. We decided to just do it as quick as we possibly could, and found as rough and an urban part of the city of Manchester as we could. A part in the city called the Northern Quarter. And we just shot it on the hoof. The camera lady was just following me with the camera, and I was, going through the song, singing the song, telling the story to the camera. And we had the whole thing shot in a few hours.
Wow. Cool stuff. So Rock Metal Nation, if you dug the track Supply and Demand, go and go to today's show notes. That is www.therockmetalpodcast.ca. You can go and see the music video for Supply and Demand. Now, Geralt, go ahead and take us through what kind of news and upcoming information you've got for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, as you know, as say with all kind of musicians and bands, it might look from the outside that you might be having a break, but it's never the case. You've always got to keep working at things. So at the moment, while the single for the Supply and Demand is out there and the video is out there, I'm actually writing to go into the studio next week with the next single. At the moment, I'm releasing a song and a video every 3 months. And so Supply and Demand, is the current one. And so I'm working on the song now, getting it ready, going into the studio next week to get the next tune ready for, where does that take us, the June or the July release.
Very cool stuff. So I bet Rock Metal Nation is just frothing at the ears at the idea there's going to be a new single and a new video, frothing at the eyes even then, for the Rogue Network coming on down. So the next logical question then is, how can Rock Metal Nation find out more about you? Is there a website that we should go to?
Yeah, well, social media is probably the easiest way to follow us. So you can find us, on all the kind of big kind of websites. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, YouTube. Even if you want to download some of the tunes, Spotify, iTunes, we're all over the kind of the big hitters.
Very cool. All right. Well, unless there's anything else you wanted to throw out there, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day to come on to the Rock Metal Podcast and sharing Rogue Network with Rock Metal Nation.
That's great. Just thank you for having me on the podcast. It's good to talk to you.
Rock Metal Nation. Hopefully you just found your new favorite band in the Rogue Network. Big thanks again to them for coming on and sharing their music with us. Make sure to head over to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to get all the information on the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.